I think we're now up to 7 episodes. It's really good stuff. Really recommend people get involved. Great for British wrestling. So yeah, check that out. WAW on Mustard TV. Matt, let's go to something completely off subject of wrestling for a little while. Ronda Rousey last week announces, or Dana White announced at least, that she will be back fighting at UFC, was it 207, which is at the back end of December. So she's not going to be on the Madison Square Garden card, but by all accounts, Matt, Dana White firmly believes this is going to be the biggest buy rate draw, including over Nick Diaz and Conor McGregor. He thinks this is the one that is going to blow everything out of the water. It's going to be the biggest one to date in MMA history. It definitely could get there, Matt. What was your sort of first take on the fact that she's coming back, and was you expecting that it wouldn't be long? Because a lot of people had speculated that she might be done with fighting and looking to do something else. What was your reaction to the news?
Oh, that just adds to the anticipation, doesn't it? All the speculation that she might be done in the Octagon, and now she is coming back. I'm incredibly excited for this match. I mean, it's like Dana White read my mind, when you said like he expects this to be a huge match. Well, if he come to me and said I can only watch one UFC fighter this year, then I would have said Ronda Rousey. I want to see those matches. If you can get her back in the Octagon, that's what I want to see. Mm-hmm. So if I had to choose, I would choose those matches. So I can see why it is going to be a huge success. It can't come around soon enough as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think we said last time on the podcast or the time before that UFC has had a great year in 2016. I mean, they really have. They've had 2 blockbuster matches between Diaz and McGregor. They've had UFC 200 and bringing over Brock. Certainly loads of attention in that. Having the women on last, I think, is a huge statement in that match as well. They're going to be in New York, Matt, for the first time since the commission finally, gave them the opportunity to now fight there, like the ban was lifted. And then at the back end, at the very end, they were going to see Ronda Rousey. I mean, it's an incredible year for UFC. They have managed to put on some great cards and some great matches during the year, and not just their big pay-per-views either. Like some of those fight night ones have been excellent as well. So I think they've done really well, and this is another sign that UFC has some real draws, like some real characters, similar to wrestling, that you get invested in over time. You want to see these certain people in a fight, and obviously Ronda Rousey, Matt, we saw at WrestleMania a couple of years ago, and there was that sort of tease about was she going to make it to WrestleMania the year after. Unfortunately, she didn't. Unfortunately for us, I think. But I never rule out Ronda Rousey turning up in WWE at some point to do a match, because she's just such a wrestling fan. Like I say, if anyone's ever listened to her, half the time she's on a podcast or anything, she rarely talks about MMA. She is always talking about wrestling, and her favourite wrestler, of course, was the name she took off of, which is Rowdy Roddy Piper. But man, when I talk about she knows her wrestling, she doesn't just know her wrestling now. I mean, she knows her wrestling history. She's very big into wrestling, back to the territories and all that stuff. So she's very much into professional wrestling, and as far as I'm concerned, she's a huge draw if WWE can get her at some point. Whatever stage that is, it's going to be a huge draw. I just hope they get the right... By the time they get her in, there's a decent opponent, at least we think's got half a chance against her. But Matt, going to Ronda Rousey in this fight in particular, she gets a title shot straight off the bat. Was you surprised she's gonna fight Nunes? Because Nunes... going back to her fight at UFC 200, Matt, like she was a striker, she's a known boxer, so it kind of gives Ronda that sort of, well, what people called a bit of a problem when she fought Holly Holmes. Is this another thing to overcome for her? And it certainly doesn't seem the easiest fight to come back to, regardless of what people think about her getting a title shot straight off the bat.
Oh no, I mean, this is the things that people love to see, though, isn't it? They like to see someone coming back and not just going against someone like anybody that they could easily beat. They want to see a match that's actually going to be a bit of a challenge, because you don't just want to spend your money and then just see a completely one-sided fight. I like this kind of story when you come back against the adversity, though, and when you lose in your first kind of matches, it is a little bit like disheartening. Will it have an effect on their personality? Will it have an effect on the in-ring style? It kind of reminds me of when St. Pierre lost his match, didn't he? First match against Matt Hughes, wasn't it? Yeah. And he had incredible respect for the guy, and he said he was an incredible fighter and that, but he's coming back and fighting someone credible. That's what I like.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think she's got a hell of a chance of winning it. And I think what rings true, Matt, is that since Ronda's loss last year against Holly Holmes, that belt's been around like a hot potato. I mean, no female since then has managed to consolidate or make their own sort of little legacy going since then, because, Holly Holmes, she loses to Misha Tate. Misha Tate loses to Nunes, and nobody really expected Nunes to be as deadly and lethal as she was in that fight. She just literally went straight in and with striking. And now, obviously, Ronda's back, but it just goes to show you, Matt, that Ronda Rousey was the real deal, because she held that belt for nearly 4 years. Which if you look at where the belt's gone since, I think you give her more respect now, because it obviously wasn't that easy when you think about it. In terms of UFC, Matt, like Ronda Rousey, she is like, if not bigger than most of, maybe even Conor McGregor as far as box office goes, and certainly if Dana White is definitely calling this one out as being the biggest draw and buy rate, Ronda Rousey is the face of that company. And you want your face to be in the main events and probably keeping and winning that belt. If she does lose this one, Matt, do you see that being the end, or do you think she goes on, or do you think she just calls it a day?
Yeah, this is one of those situations. It is kind of like a must-win, and I think a lot of people are looking at it like that way. They know that she is the real deal. They know that she has like that work ethic where she just like focused, like laser focused, and she comes back with a purpose. Or every match that she was going into, she had a purpose, and she kind of believed she was going to win it. So you're thinking that she's going to come back like that. So then you're in the mindset that she's actually going to win. I'm thinking that she's going to win, and if she doesn't win, I will be kind of confused. And that will leave me questioning it as well. I'll be thinking, what is next? Because when you come back with such high expectations, you really do have to achieve them.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of pressure on her. I think she obviously knows that. There was no one any more disappointed than I think she was at the time that all that happened. She's gone through a very emotional time, I think, since then. I think I was surprised more than anything, Matt. I know we get great reaction from the wrestling side of her fans, but there are a lot of people that come out and seem to enjoy the fact that she was beat and how it was done, and she was I was quite shocked by that kind of reaction after that fight, because I thought she was without a doubt, and she still is probably the best representation of female sportspersons right now. If you look at how she's almost brought it into WWE, we know that with the women's. I mean, look how much they've changed since Ronda Rousey become so popular. That's not just happened by fluke. That's Ronda Rousey's popularity getting seen by WWE, and them realizing that we need to go a different way with the way we promote women in general. And like a couple of weeks ago, seeing Sasha Banks and Charlotte on Last. I know it was only a Raw, but that sort of thing was unheard of. So if you go back 3 years ago, that was not happening at all. No way. So she definitely has a lot of impact. The one thing I say when people say to me, "What other combat sports do you like? Do you like boxing? Do you like mixed martial arts and all the rest of it?" And I am a boxing fan. I watch like the big fights, but the one thing that you can guarantee with the UFC, Matt, over boxing, it's like you just said about Ronda Rousey. First match back, it's not exactly an easy fight. Like, if I guarantee you, if she was a boxer, she'd be going up against almost a nobody just to get her back in the limelight and making more money before you... Like, there's always a gradual build-up in boxing until you get that dream match. But in UFC, they just book it. I mean, they don't even think about that. They just book the match and it's on. They don't really think about, well, we're going to hope that such and such wins, and then over there such and such is going to win, and then we're going to bring them together and make more money. No, these fights are just put on and they're there. And that's, I think, been one of the best successes about UFC, why they've been so popular, is that they don't hang about. And obviously, the huge advantage that mixed martial art, UFC in particular, has, Matt, over boxing is they're all under contract from the same company, UFC. They haven't got to have all these promoters in a room, all worried about who's going to get paid, worried about where they're going to be on the card, etc., etc. The great thing for UFC is they own all their talent, so they have that real nice option of kind of putting their talent wherever they need to put. So yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing them out. I don't know about you, but I mean, this is definitely going to sum up a very interesting year in UFC, and obviously Ronda back is, I didn't expect it. I've got to be honest, because I thought if there was any time for her to come back, it was going to be at Madison Square Garden. But I'm really pumped to hear the news, and very excited for it. And also, just to let everybody know that when we come up close, we're going to have UFC Madison Square Garden in November. The early part of November, we're going to have our good friend Daniel Puder coming back on the show, and he's going to run down the card for us, because obviously Conor McGregor is back in action. There's Rashad Evans as well, so there's lots of fights going on that night. And obviously it's a historic moment for UFC, Matt, in a sense that they're getting into New York, because not many people know, but New York is quite a new place now to even set up more of a camp across the US, and of course they've done a great job in the UK as well, but it does make them more legit now getting into New York area, and probably has WWE scratching their head a little bit on this one, because WWE, as we know, is very New York based, but that should be an interesting card. So we're going to have Daniel Puder on before and after that event, so we're going to definitely have a UFC feel to November for sure. And of course the late December, we'll be, of course, talking about Ronda Rousey. So looking forward to that. Matt, you going now on to another subject. You messaged me about Survivor Series. I didn't quite believe you at first, and then I read up on it, and I was like, oh, here we go again. Just tell us what is happening at Survivor Series. There's going to be, 3 classic Survivor Series tag team elimination matches. Is that right?
Yeah, we heard Daniel Bryan talking about it on SmackDown, didn't we? I think it's 5 women from SmackDown versus 5 tag teams versus 5 tag Raw, and 5 single male competitors versus 5 single male competitors from each show.
Right.
Yeah, and I was looking through it the other day, reading up a bit about Survivor Series, and then I came across this thing, and it said something along the lines of, like, the winner, overall winner of this, like the show, will receive some sort of trophy or something, and then the participating winners will be able to sort of choose their future, like which show they would like to represent. And I'm not sure how true this is, but, I think you probably read up a little bit more about me. I just came across it, browsing through, and I thought, okay, this sounds very interesting, because it just seems like they've only just had the brand split. And if this is true, then, why are they changing it over already? It's like they run out of ideas on SmackDown. I think SmackDown is the worst culprit for this, because they've got a slim roster. So, there's not many people left for AJ to fight once he's done with John Cena and Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, I mean, I've not read up any more on it, but that wouldn't surprise me. But I'm shocked that already we'd have the idea of, okay, whatever brand wins, they get to choose 3 stars, and then what will happen? The same thing that happened in the draft. We'll be scratching our heads going, well, why didn't they just pick, I don't know, if you're SmackDown, why didn't they pick Brock, Seth, and flipping Kevin Owens or something? Instead, they'll probably pick the New Day or something like that. Like NXT, when they started picking their guys, we was like, what? Why are they not picking Nakamura ahead of Baron Corbin? It's ridiculous. So I don't know if that's just pleasing the creative guys just to be able to do that switch, which sets them up very nicely, and then they're just going to put that into this just to have that happen. But I think that sort of thing's too soon.